welcome to the Executive Woman Podcast, Women Changing the Game. I'm your host, Dr. Sheila Robinson, and our mission is to empower women in business, leadership, and life. Each week, we bring you conversations with trailblazing executives and influential leaders who are breaking barriers and reshaping the business landscape. And through these discussions, we aim to provide you with the tools, strategies, and motivation to advance your career and make a lasting impact in both your life and your career aspirations. Whether you are an aspiring leader, a seasoned executive, or somewhere in between, this podcast is dedicated to supporting your professional journey and fostering a community of empowered women who lift each other up. And speaking of empowered women who lift each other up, I'm thrilled to introduce to our listeners our special guest today, Gemma Toner. Gemma Toner is the founder and CEO of Chart One Media, a SaaS platform and content company that is the parent company of Tone Networks. And Tone is the first ever leadership platform designed for women. I love that. Empowering them through short form videos, live coaching, and a vibrant online community. Now, I don't know if you can tell listeners, but I am very, very fangirling here because it is so rare that you find a woman executive in media, especially digital media. So I am just so delighted to bring Gemma to our virtual stage today. But I want to share one more thing. She is a senior executive in the cable industry for over 20 years. She has firsthand witnessed the powerful role that executive coaching and mentor had in her career. And she launched a subscription-based short-form video and social network to democratize learning and development opportunities for women. She also serves as a valuable resource that provides busy women, let me say that again, busy women with honest, practical advice, practical information from highly sought after credential experts to help them grow personally and professionally and help each other along the way. Gemma, please say a few words with our listening audience.
Well, that was quite an intro. Thank you very much. And you've captured a lot about me. So, yes, I founded Tone Networks after I had retired from a great run in what I would consider corporate America. And just a little bit of my backstory is I started out in public accounting. That was a really great experience, but something that I realized I wanted to get into media. And then I worked for a company called AMC Networks, and that was an incredible experience. And I was surrounded by a lot of innovative leaders and surrounded by a lot of women leaders too, which was pretty unique for that period in my career in that time. And then the last company that I worked with in corporate America was a company called Cablevision, and I had the opportunity to be a part of building out and launching this fledgling product called high-speed internet, which is now, of course, everywhere and actually part of what's enabling you and I today, right? It's the speed of the internet that's allowing these video calls and these, podcasts to actually occur. So I had a great run in corporate America, and I was fortunate enough to retire, and I expected to do philanthropy. I really wanted to be building homes in Haiti, and I serve on the board of a humanitarian organization that focuses on extreme hunger. And while I was pursuing that, I got asked to speak at a women's leadership conference. And it was a conference for senior leaders in the cable and telecommunications and media industries. And I was asked to speak about career pivots. And to be completely honest, Sheila, I was not really very comfortable doing that because I had retired and I had made this pact with myself that I wouldn't go back, that I was taking on this new phase of my life. And I thought, why in the world would anyone want to talk to me or hear me? Because I'm not even in the industry anymore. And at the time, I was reading Brene Brown, Daring Greatly, which I recommend for everyone. And I was in the area of, being vulnerable and courageous. And I thought, gosh, I've been given this offer to speak at a women's leadership conference. And part of what my life's mission is to help others and lift people up. And I thought, as insecure and uncomfortable as I feel, I should go to this. So I said yes to the engagement, and it was about career pivots, and certainly you can tell by what I just shared with you, I've jumped around a lot. When I went to this conference, what kind of floored me was this was an industry that I had been in. And what floored me was the women that actually showed up to hear what I had to say. Because you know what? There were people I knew, and we were no different. We were all super talented and ambitious. And I thought, why are they here to hear me talk about making those moves and making those jumps in your career? And of course, I was retired at the time, so I had some headspace that I honestly didn't have when I was in corporate, kind of juggling all the multiple plates that you do as a working woman. And I was able to reflect, and I thought, I'm no different than, some of my friends that are actually here in the room. So, what was it that made me able to actually make these jumps and make these moves? And I thought about it and I was, you know what? I had mentors and sponsors and I got access. And for someone like me, who, even though I may not have an accent, and if you look at me, I look like I'm, from Northern Europe or something. My family immigrated here, so I'm actually the first in my family to actually graduate from college. So I went into corporate America, with the notion of keep your head down, work hard, and you'll do fine, right? And somehow I didn't know what a mentor was, to be totally honest. I didn't know what a sponsor was. Certainly didn't know what an executive coach was. But all of those things came my way in my career, and I realized that all of those experiences and all of those people, right, are scarce, right? There's not enough mentors, there's not enough sponsors, and there's certainly not enough people that get access to executive coaches because it's super expensive. And so, literally, as I'm walking back, this conference had been in New York City. I was walking back to Penn Station. I thought, what can I do about this? I'm retired, so I have some headspace, and I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, wait, my background, software and video, and one of the other things I did was data analytics. And so I started to kind of hash all these ideas together and thought, I can do something about this. I can take the knowledge that you get from a mentor or a sponsor, or simply having access to an expert that, quite honestly, you don't have time to find, or you can't afford them, because some of them aren't even for sale, right? Some of them, it's very exclusive, right? You can't actually make an appointment. And how can I take that knowledge and put it in a different form factor so that I can use technology to make this scarce resource scalable to everyone? And that was really the beginning of Tone Networks.
That is outstanding. You're not only a pioneer in the space of, like you said, here we are today. You're pioneering creating all of these, the internet and the online and the digital platforms, but you're also a pioneer in leadership development. I know personally for myself, I started the work that I'm doing because of what I experienced. Let's talk a little bit about what you faced as a woman in the corporate world. What were some obstacles that you overcame, and how did you incorporate that into your platform to help other women avoid those pitfalls?
Yeah, I would say, gosh, again, I was so naive, and again, being an immigrant, it was, work hard and just be the hardest worker in the room kind of thing. And so, what I would say is, like most women, we all experience microaggressions. Quite honestly, I didn't even know that's what they were. I actually just thought I was invisible at times, or I thought I mustn't be speaking loud enough because I just said that and then somebody else said it and they were heard. So I think I experienced those type of things, if you will, that are difficult and challenging. And I think what saw me through all of this, and it has to do with my immigrant roots, was drive. And that whatever obstacle came in front of me, and there were plenty, and there were, just things that were said and opportunities that I didn't even realize I missed, that I wasn't even at the table for. I think for me, it was that I had this opportunity, that my family had immigrated to this country, and, we were living the American dream. And so here I was, I had this education and I had this wonderful life that my parents had given me, and I wasn't going to let anybody stop me. Now, that didn't mean I knew the path, but what it meant was that I had a lot of ambition and a lot of curiosity. And so I would say that's, and not always confidence, although people would say that I had this extraordinary confidence. I think deep down, I was wildly insecure. But I think when I walked into a room, I certainly had a command. And I also think part of that is, again, when, you don't necessarily come from here, you end up doing things, like writing college essays and things like that, that there was no one to talk to. I, called a cousin who wasn't even my cousin because we didn't really have a lot of relatives, but he was a cousin because he was a family friend. I mean, that's kind of how it worked for us, right? And so what I would say is, yes, I did what most of us do. You know, um, I was often the only woman in the room. And for whatever reason, that didn't scare me. I would say some of the more interesting things that I experienced was sometimes being the only woman in the room and being told, and this is very typical, right? If you're ambitious as a woman, you're too aggressive. And I really got a kick out of you're intimidating the others in the room. And the others in the room were all men. I'm like, well, go figure, because
Yeah.
I'm the only one here. So, you take it. I think it was a lesson in, when you get that kind of feedback. At the time, it was sort of crushing because I thought, gosh, I'm just trying to participate and be heard. I think reflecting on it, maybe how to read a room better, that would be one thing. But two, what do you take from feedback? And, some of that feedback you take, listen to, and, act on. And some of it you say, thank you very much, note taken, and you move on. So I would say those are the things that I experienced. I also had a great experience working with a lot of I always liked working in the technical space, working with a lot of really great, technical people, most of them men, quite honestly, but a few women. And we just had a great time because it was really about the what we were achieving because it hadn't been done before, and that really was exciting. And so I felt like we did have a level playing field in the room because nobody had the answer and we had to figure it out together. And so that made for a very exciting uh, career.
And so, for our listeners, I know that we started out talking about your platform was developed for the busy working woman, aren't we? We're more busier than ever today. And I think that's because the technology has eliminated all these shortcuts. And, so we're busy, busy, busy. I want to hear about your experience with executive coaching and mentoring because that's what inspired you to create Tone Networks. What would you say to our listeners that say, oh, I'm too busy to add another thing to my platform? I want to talk about the importance of executive coaching and what your experience was with that.
Yeah, I think mentoring and sponsorship is something that in some ways is sometimes more accessible because even executive coaching can be very expensive. But that's why we're here, right? To give you access to that knowledge. For me personally, it was life changing. And, I didn't get an executive coach, as most people don't get access to an executive coach till much later in your career, right? And I had an extraordinary executive coach. And I mean, she rocked my world, right? And she rocked my world by asking, having me reflect and think about things just very differently. And I experienced was just this whole new perspective on my career and quite frankly on my life. And when it dawned on me that, hey, not everybody gets this, how can you take that knowledge and share that and make it accessible? That was, you know, what I wanted to do because it just seemed like, wait, there's a big gap here. And I think when certainly when I was in corporate America, we were all ambitious, aggressive, competing against each other, men and women. And, because, there were positions we wanted, and that's the way it is at times. I would say that I was so busy spinning all the plates that I don't even think I realized what I was getting access to and how special it was until, I actually retired and I realized, wow, not everybody gets that. And the same goes for that's an executive coach, but the same goes for mentors. And what I will say about mentors is take mentorship in any way you can get it. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to that say, I don't have a mentor. I'm like, are you sure you don't have a mentor? Because sometimes you may not. Most of my mentors were not formal mentors where I was part of a mentorship program and I was matched with a mentor. No, most of my mentors were people that I worked with that, we got on, we got along well, but why did these people want to help me? Well, they wanted to help me because I had done a good job and they saw ambition and they saw a spark. And so, sometimes people say, well, how do you get a mentor? I'm like, well, you make sure that, people know what you're doing, that you're seen, that, you walk into a room, you say hi to people and, then you make sure that you're talking to people afterwards and that you're really good at what you do and that you take on new responsibilities without getting paid for it. That you take on things that nobody else wants, quite frankly. Some of my biggest job opportunities have been the projects that everyone was like, oh, I mean, no thanks. um, and, I would say that is mission critical is don't let this idea of a mentor being someone that you meet with on a weekly basis for coffee stop you from seizing those opportunities when someone is willing to give you advice and someone is willing to help.
Well, as we know, there are pros and cons in technology. Like I said, some of the things in technology has us moving so fast we don't have time to breathe. But technology also has so many benefits, which brings us to how you utilize it to provide short form video content and live coaching. So, to our listeners, many, like you said, cannot afford executive coaching. Would you share a little bit about how Tone empowers women by providing those short form video content and
Yes,
live coaching and the community, how it's community focused on leadership and personal growth?
yeah, it is. So I'll tell you, we when I founded Tone, I'm a big data geek. And one of the things that we did, which is sometimes kind of unusual, is we did national research, right? And I think you probably wouldn't have done national research if you were just coming up as a founder, in a more traditional way. I was kind of untraditional coming from corporate America and then becoming a founder.
Right.
And we did this national research, and it was specific against working women. And what was really interesting was we asked them this question: what stands in the way of your personal and professional development? We asked all different ages, all different salary levels, all different demographics. And what bubbled up from all of this were a couple of areas that I know you know well, and everyone that's listening knows well and watching knows well as well. And that is one of the things that stands in the way, particularly for women, is time. Last on my list, I never have time for me. I'm taking care of all these other things. I've got work, I've got family, I've got all of these other responsibilities that, I oftentimes am at the very bottom, right? So that was one. Time is an issue, right? And that informed how we created Tone, right? And I'll get to that in a moment. The second piece was access. And access was a really interesting when we dug into it because access didn't mean, hey, this stuff wasn't around. Access meant it wasn't working for me in the form factor that it existed. So yeah, there's lots of information out there, but I don't have time to go find it. I don't have time to make sure it's credible. Courses are more traditional learning that we've all experienced. Let me take a course that's over a few months and it's an hour a week. I don't have time. Once again, it goes back to the time issue. That doesn't work for me. So the access really equated to form factor and how could we kind of take a fresh look at form factor. And then below that was, this is really sad but true, personal and professional development, confidence, the confidence to actually do it, to actually spend time investing in oneself. And then tucked under confidence was permission. And so those tenets, those findings really became the basis for how we began to create Tone. So when I talk about Tone, Tone is a platform that is a little like TikTok meets your personal and professional development. So think of it as almost like social media that's good for you, right?
Yes.
And that, 'cause, we love social media, it's really fun, but you can really get stuck on cat videos. I am one that knows that. It's a weak spot for me. So the idea here is, to let's look at behavior that we do have and we somehow do make time for, and let's put it in a form factor that kind of feels short and easy and fun. And let's take away the things that people don't like about learning. So another question we asked, what don't you like about corporate learning? I don't like tests. Most people don't like tests, right? I don't like PowerPoint. I don't like it too long. I don't like to take notes because I don't have time. And I just want you to make it easy for me to learn. And so, again, that informed how we created the content and the experience at Tone. So, that research really informed that almost what 2,500, we're going to be pushing 3,000 by the end of the year. All of our videos are micro learning. Okay, so that means they're super short. So they're no more than 3 to 5 minutes. And all of our videos have this thing called tone takeaways. And what are tone takeaways? They're your cheat sheet, they're your notes. Here are the 3 things that you need to remember about, let's say, executive presence, or how to read a room, or how to have a difficult conversation. Here's the 1, 2, 3. And the other thing that our platform does is we also send you a little thank you note to give you some positive reinforcement for spending a little time on yourself. And literally the next day, you get this little note either via an app notification or an email that says, thanks for watching. Here are your tone takeaways. And so you've got your takeaways and you've got the video that you watched in case you want to watch it again. Because guess what? It takes a while for things to sink in. So it's okay to watch a video over and over again. How many times do you watch a YouTube video about how to reset your thermostat or something? Several times, right? It's okay. And so that's how the platform works. What we also wanted to make sure of is that, when women played back to us, what's out there just isn't for me. We wanted to use technology to make it so that you can decide what's interesting for you and what you want to learn. The last thing I wanted to do was waste your time. And so when you become a Tone member, we ask you, what are you interested in? So if you're not a progressive, if you're not a parent, we're not going to send you progressive parenting videos because that doesn't work for you. You're not interested in that. But if you want to learn about leadership development, if you want to learn about inclusion, if you want to learn about, how do I manage my mental health in the office? You know what? We have this little screen that you check, and you just basically check the boxes, and then we start to get to know you. And when we get to know you, we then serve you content that is relevant to you. And why is that important? Because there's tons of content that's created out in the world, both at the internet at large, on YouTube and all these fun platforms. But there's also tons of content that you have access to at your work. The issue is that at Tone, what we do is we make it really relevant to you, and it's at your behest, if you will, right? You get to decide. And so what happens is when you're in the driver's seat, you actually engage with it because it's actually something you said, I want to learn about this, right? And so what we do is we also subscribe to the nudge theory of behavioral change, which I know, Sheila, you know about this, right? Which is, it's a little bit about baby steps, but what it's also about is, let me give you a gentle reminder, right? Because sometimes you just need that. And so what Tone does is once we know what you want, we also send you content twice a week. You can decide how many times you want this content to land either in your inbox or on your phone deck. And again, it's for you. It's a little like, people say, wow, that's pretty extraordinary. You get such high engagement, which at the end of the day, I can have these ideas of I want to get people access and I want people to live their best lives. And, that's my life's mission, right? But if you create all this stuff and nobody engages, it's all for naught. It's zero, right? And so I think what we do really well, I know what we do really well at Tone is we engage our members to the point where, Sheila, we started focused on women. And now we're bringing in allies and
Allies.
sponsors and mentors because guess what? Everybody wants to be a part of this, which is awesome, right? Because we can't do this alone. So it's been a great experience, but it's also been one that we've really done a lot of research, work with neuroscientists, even just figuring out how to make the content such that it's easy for you to remember. So there's literally, I'm going to get really nerdy on you right now, but there's an audio cue for every video, the beginning of every video. And that's literally to kind of get you put your antennas up, time to listen. And, that ding, ding, okay, here comes Tone. And then it has a very specific format of, here's what we're going to talk about. Here's why, here's what it is. And then ding, ding, here are your tone takeaways. Again, put your antennas up. And then we send you the notes and take care of it. So that's a big component of tone. Another component of tone, you've got me talking about tone now. I
No, I
can't help
love it. We need to hear it.
Another component of tone is, I mentioned to you in the beginning, access, right? And so, short form videos are great for easy access. But here's another way for us to get people access, and that is we actually host live stream coaching sessions. And what we do is twice a month, as part of a membership subscription, you get access to a Tone Talk. And that Tone Talk is hosted by usually a journalist, like a CNN, an anchor type person, someone that's an extraordinary storyteller, but also a really good interviewer. And we have an expert, and that expert could be an executive coach. That expert could be a psychologist. That expert could be a doctor, a medical doctor. And what we're giving you is access to people that you might not ordinarily know of. Or even if you know of them, you don't have time. And so we do the work for you. So a word we use a lot is curate. We curate this for you, right? We make it really easy for you to invest in yourself. That's what, again, back to, if you create all this content and nobody's watching and nobody's engaging, it doesn't matter. So our goal is to make it really easy. Another piece that we have is that we actually have an area for our partner companies where they can showcase their executives, right? And you can actually learn and see who are the people in your company, because so often we're so busy, right? You got your head down and you don't even realize it's someone down the hall or someone that you were just on a call with is someone that you'd really like to get to know.
Exactly.
And again, these are tools to help you grow and to help yourself, right? It really is that. Another piece of what we do, and I love this. So we created Tone so that it's really easy for you to use and either take it on the go. We create these things called playlists. You can create your own playlist of content that you want to listen to or watch. You can take it on the train. You can listen to it in your car. My goal is to make it really easy for you to find 5 minutes to make an investment in yourself. So, when you break up Tone, we've got all of this, short form micro learning content. Then we've got these really cool, and today we actually are having one, to brag or not to brag. How does one self promote, right? We have these great coaching sessions that give you access to experts that ordinarily we don't have access to. Then we have this playlist functionality, which again makes it easy for you to take on the go and decide what you want. We have push content to really help you engage and, remind you, take a few minutes for you. And then last but not least, we also have analytics, right? So that what we do is oftentimes companies, you can experience Tone in two ways. You can experience it as an individual and buy a subscription, or your company can buy it for you. And, everything we do at Tone, coaching is confidential. So none of your information, your personal information, is ever shared. But what we do share with our partners is, here's what your employees are interested in. And here's what, you should be thinking. And that's another part of, the whole Tone experience.
It is amazing. Thank you so much for what you have done for, our workforce, which brings me to, as we're wrapping up our time together, the future of leadership for women. I personally think that the sky is the limit. Even with technology and AI, I think there are going to be more opportunities. Those opportunities might look different, but I think the future of leadership for women is absolutely fabulous. I'd love for you to share your advice for women looking to advance their careers and include strategies for building confidence and navigate these challenges, and using some of these tools and resources that you mentioned, and your take on what the future of leadership could be for women that are looking to advance their careers.
Yeah, I certainly think, for women, we're in a great place, right? I think, look, we have a long way to go. There's still a lot of things that aren't quite level. Let's not kid ourselves, right? And that's part of why we all need to, I think, most importantly, support each other, right? Because, look, at the end of the day, women have more jobs than their male counterparts, oftentimes. Not always, but oftentimes. So we are experiencing more stress. So I think it's important that we all support each other, that you do find those networks and you make those networks. They don't just come to you where you work and also outside of where you work, so that you have trusted advisors and you have those mentors and sponsors. I think what I always say is you need to be curious, and being fearless is really hard, but it's okay. And the best way I can think about this is, what's the worst thing that happens? You fail. Okay. You know what? We need to fail. And I don't like to fail. Trust me. I like everything to knock it out of the park. But guess what? It honestly doesn't happen that way. If you're not failing and you're not swinging it, you're not pushing. And what I would say is, and again, another time, I'll tell you about all the jobs I didn't get, but there's something to be said for, as you are pushing to get that next opportunity. One, volunteer for the projects that, somebody else doesn't want, make sure who, are the people that are doing the hiring, so you can navigate the organization. Remain curious, and I mean that. It isn't. I know we have a lot to do, but spend some time on the stuff that really fills your cup, but also really fills that curiosity, which hopefully they're both, right? And really don't give up. And no is just a beginning. Don't. So when someone says no, it means okay. So not this time.
Gemma, that is wonderful. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Gemma Toner, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experiences. I do want you to have one final thought as I'm closing us out. I always like to have my special guest give the last word. So think of what you want to send what words of wisdom you would like to send our listeners off with as I close out for us. Your journey and dedication to empowering women and inspiring women, especially like myself, has been amazing to our listeners. We hope you found this conversation as enlightening as I did. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your support helps us to continue bringing you these valuable discussions. And remember, you're going to find the links to all the resources that Gemma mentioned in today's episode, as well as information about my organization. So don't forget to connect with us. And I'll turn it back over to our special guest and give her our final parting words.
Yeah, what I would say again is, don't give up. You're not alone. If you feel overwhelmed, we all do. Okay, so maybe some people just share it better. Stay curious, and remember, keep pushing forward. You will get it. Have that dream and pursue it. It happens.
Well, there you go, listeners. Stay curious and keep pushing forward. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Keep striving.